So next up, booking the venue. So essentially, I'm just going to read this out. It's like PowerPoint presentation, like 101. Just don't do it, but I'm going to read it out. So find a good room, light and airy in a hotel, with good coffee, easy access, and lunch potentially if you're doing a day-long workshop. A lot of my events, so the free seminars especially, I'd go theatre style, and the reason for that, so theatre style is when all of the seats are lined up. You can then also have like, what do they call it? Where you have the round tables, like a bit more like a glitzy kind of event. You might choose that for a workshop. There's a specific name for it. It's totally gone out of my brain. Anyway, so there's lots of different seating arrangements, but I go theatre style because you can get more people in there. Don't need the bells and whistles. If you're doing something more creative, then maybe you do want like the bigger tables, so people can get spread out. There's I'll probably think of it at some point. I always provide coffee for guests because it's a nice thing to do. Basically, don't expect them always to pay for drinks and things like that. We want to give them a pleasant experience, push them into a nice emotional state so that they think we're a great guy. And this isn't about manipulating people. This is just like being a decent human being. Like, give them good coffee. Like, you know, it's not expensive either. It's like normally a couple of quid a cup if you book a nice hotel. And then also, when you're booking the hotel, so this is like quite a key tip here. If you think you're going to get 40, the hotel will charge you up front 40, and you don't get any money back from that. So what I tend to do is I'll underquote the number of attendees when I book a hotel, for example. So if I'm hoping to get 50 people into a room, I tell them, well, I want to make sure that if I need the bigger room, I can have the bigger room, but I'm only expecting 30 people. Remember as well that in terms of like the number of people who show up to a free event, you will get a 45 to 55% turnout rate, i.e. 45 to 55% of people won't show up. So you always want to overbook your event. I didn't make that clear enough in the last slide. So always overbook a free event, but underquote the amount of people you're expecting to the hotel, because then the amount of money which you pay up front is cheaper. Now, the good thing is that if you do end up with more people than you'd anticipated, yes, it's going to cost you a little bit more, but you end up with more people you anticipated, which is great. But like I said, if you overquote it, the hotel won't give you a refund on that. You can't renegotiate it. Some might, but from my experience, not many have. So then we move on to the marketing and promotional side of things. So you know about Eventbrite. So we add the event on Eventbrite, and then basically we're going to use the Eventbrite platform as a first stage of marketing your event. So in this instance, you've got two options down here, which are both add to Facebook and email invitations, which you can see is highlighted down in here. What happens basically is, so you need to make sure you've got a Facebook page in order to add this to Facebook. So you'll create something called you just follow the wizard, click on the link, follow the wizard. It'll punch the event through onto your Facebook page as an event. Now, the beauty of doing that is there's an option in Facebook. In fact, if I got a slide. Yeah, there's a slide a bit further back. So let me just back up a bit. So one of the benefits of it is basically it'll allow people to then book your Eventbrite event directly from Facebook, which if you just add the event into Facebook, you can't necessarily do that. You have to put an event URL in there, and it won't have that link in it. So this is really important. And you'll get this Facebook event link, which is cool. So you know then that it's linked up. So the other thing which I also then do is email invitations. Now I've run like about 20 or so events, not just for Fearless, but also for a local networking group I run. So I market to both of those. And basically I use this create invitation option that Eventbrite produces. So if you've already run events or you've got a marketing list, you can invite people straight into Eventbrite. Again, they've got templates in there. They don't look pretty, but they've got templates in there. You can fire it out to your list, and then there'll be buttons in there that will take them straight back to Eventbrite so they can book. So it's basically making this as easy as possible for the guests who you're inviting. So we create the invitation. There's an option here to add guests, and then we'll come on to schedule in a second. So when you click on the add guest button, you get this. So it shows all of your previous events that you've run. And you can actually just select, I could go through here and select Fearless events or my StroudNet networking events, whatever it is. And and then click add, and then basically it will create a list of people who it's going to send it to. And then the other thing I've highlighted down here is scheduling. Now, if you're occasionally like me, kind of a bit of a workhorse, and you're creating the event at, like, I don't know, 9 o'clock at night, well, actually the reality is that probably most of your audience might not be in the market for booking an event at 9 o'clock at the night. Having said that, I listed an event last night at about midnight, and somebody booked at 5 past midnight. So, hey, there are some night owls out there. But what we want to do is try and push this event out, this invitation out, when most people are going to be available to it. So I always tend to do it the next day at about 7 o'clock in the morning, so that when people are starting to fire up their phones, laptops, PCs and things like that, my invitation is at the top of their inbox. So it's one of the most recent emails which they received. And then we hit send now. So I've gone through this, add your guests. Now in Facebook, a good friend of mine, Nick Byrne, he says this boost button is like the gateway drug for Facebook ads. So do not use boost, because you will just end up burning cash. The audience won't be as targeted. You're allowing Facebook to do a lot of the work, and actually Facebook is an algorithm. It may not have all of the information. So what we want to do, and what I'm going to show you later on with Facebook ads, is how to market your event properly using Facebook ads, not the boost button. So I don't know if I made that clear, but do not, in fact, under any circumstances, ever boost a post. You're better off like trying to get to grips with Facebook ads and understanding the value that it can deliver. Also, you've got the option, you see there's a few of my friendly faces. I probably should have blurred some of these out. But you've got the option, once the event is on Facebook, of inviting friends. So if you know that there are people in the local area who've gone to other events and things like that, well, you can invite them all to come along to your event, which is pretty cool. And so the other reason why I've got this in here is, so now once you've promoted that event, pushed the event from Eventbrite to Facebook, that'll just appear on your page. But what you could also do is, if you're a member of other groups and they allow you to do it in their description and their terms, you could just go through and add your events to a number of other websites, Facebook groups that are available out there. So rather than it just appearing in one place, actually the event appears in, half a dozen other groups which you're a member of that you've engaged within, if they let you do that. And again, that's just a way of reaching out to different audiences, basically, who may have heard about you but may miss if they're not a member, if they don't like your Facebook page, they'll miss that event. Cool. So I'm not going to go, like I said, I'm not going to go into detail in the presentation, because I feel that that's something for, if you want to know more about that, you come and speak to me directly. There's no magic or anything like that in there, but there's a specific format, and it does take about 20 minutes to half an hour to kind of talk through. I may eventually do another presentation about that, or talk about that later. But what I want to do is kind of really get to grips with the Facebook ads, which is kind of the... and I'm going to make a note of that we're 26 minutes 42 in, because 26 minutes. So Facebook ads are the things really which makes my event successful at the moment. Now, if Mark Zuckerberg goes and changes any of the rules around events, or makes Facebook ads more expensive, then this is kind of going to screw up this this strategy which I use at the moment. But hey ho, whilst it's rolling, and I reckon it will be fine for the next year or two at least, I'm just going to roll with it too. So, right, what I'm going to cover during this Facebook ad section is around the budget that you're planning to market your event, so versus your event lifetime value. If you're jumping in at this point, I'd suggest you go back and watch the slide about event lifetime value, because that's quite important. I'm going to go through the ad format again. Like, I'm not a Facebook ad expert. I'm just telling you what I do, and it seems to work and get people booked on for less than £1 per person booked at the moment. So I'm just telling you what I know. There'll be other probably Facebook ad experts out there maybe watching this, who maybe I'll get some tips out of it. Maybe they'll spot some stuff that I'm missing, but I'm not an expert. I'm just telling you what I know. So I'm going to go through what I do from an ad format perspective: title, descriptions, calls to action, and stuff like that. I'm going to talk to you a little bit around split testing and the 3 different types of ads which I've tested, and which one I've really kind of honed in and settled on. And then finally, I'm going to talk to you about kind of the actual Facebook ad structure from an audience perspective. So looking at lookalike audiences, custom audiences, and event audiences, and things like that. Hope that's cool. So, kind of jumping about a little bit, but these are the 3 ads which I split tested basically. So, let's have a quick look. So we'll come back to budget. So kind of just to give you an idea. So I tend to use a basic image ad. Is actually kind of the least popular one. I then have a video ad. That's kind of the second most popular one. And then this, what I call a disruptive ad. And actually this has been the most popular one for me. So this is actually one of the diagrams, one of my tools that I teach people about customer lifetime value. But for some reason it makes people stop and go back and have a look at the event. And then during those few seconds, they then go, oh, this is cool. It's a free seminar in Cheltenham. So yeah, away we go. So basically what we want to do is have like something really clear at the top of it. So who we're speaking to, business owners of Gloucestershire. So it's location based, it's talking about our target market. And then you're invited, so call to action, you're invited to a free seminar at the Jury's in Cheltenham on Friday the 26th. So it's got all of the basic details in there. And then if they click more, it's going to get them, give them a few more details about what this seminar is going to do for them, basically. So there's like 3 bullets and a couple of other details in there. And then we've got the image. Like I said, it says interested there, but actually if you click into that ad, you then get the option to actually book a ticket directly from Eventbrite, which is pretty cool.